The rain gently drums against the courthouse windows, the sort of constant beat that is almost intentional, as if the sky itself is aware that something serious is about to happen. The cameras in here are rolling, whispers ring down the hall, and each face is wearing the same expression, anticipation blended with incredulity. Mary Brown ambles slowly through the double doors. Her stance is upright, but her eyes are red, puffy, and tired, say otherwise. She isn't the reserved woman the world recalls from Sister Wives. Today, she appears to be someone who has been keeping a secret too long. In the front of the courtroom is Cody Brown, his jaw set, arms folded, a recalcitrant glint in his eyes. Next to him, Robin keeps looking over at the judge, her hands wringing the chain on her neck. She shifts closer to Cody and she whispers, "This shouldn't be happening." But even she understands, it's too late to turn back now. Across the room, Christine and Janelle sit side by side, not enemies, but witnesses. They wear blank faces. They have watched this family shatter piece by piece, and today is different. Today, one person's truth will be heard at last. The bailiff cries out, "All rise." Judge Harrison walks in, composed, stern, and already fatigued from what is soon to ensue. He scans the case file, then at the individuals standing before him. This court is now in session. Case number 4812, Mary Brown vs. Cody and Robin Brown. The room becomes silent. Mary lets out a deep breath, clutching the wooden podium. "Your Honor," she starts, "I never wanted it to be this way." Her voice trembles, not out of fear, but out of years of biting back my words. But there are things that were kept hidden, things that impacted my life, my family, and my marriage, and I'm owed the truth, once and for all. The prosecutor, a steady woman in a Navy business suit, approaches. "Mrs. Brown, we'll begin at the beginning. Tell the court when you first realized something was amiss." Mary breathes deeply, gaze wandering back to the early days, the cameras, the smiles, the fantasy of a utopian plural marriage. "At first," she says, "I trusted everything that Cody said. We were creating something spiritual, something sincere. But as the years went by, I saw how much shifted when Robin came into our family. How everything, the time, the affection, the decisions, began to orbit around her." Robin's eyes overflow, but she doesn't interrupt. She realizes that for every tear, there's a truth Mary's been waiting to share. The prosecutor nods. "And when did you begin to think that there could be something more?" Mary's lips pursed. "The night I discovered the papers," she says softly. "Adoption papers. DNA tests. Records that weren't mine to read." The courtroom gasps, whispers spread throughout the crowd. Cody slams his hand on the table. "This is ridiculous." The judge glares at him. "Mr. Brown, you'll have your turn." Robin places her hand on his arm, whispering, "Please, don't." But his anger is boiling, his face red, eyes burning with frustration. Mary goes on, "Years went by and I held my tongue. I thought to myself, it wasn't my business to inquire. But when I read those documents, something within me shattered. Because what I discovered wasn't merely about Robin. It was about me. About my life being rewritten without my approval." Her words linger thick in the air. Even Christine dabs a tear from her eye. The prosecutor places a folder slowly on the table, sealed evidence. "Mrs. Brown," she says, "these papers, the ones you discovered, are now official exhibits. They hold DNA results and personal records belonging to both Cody and Robin Brown. Can you verify these were discovered in your home?" Mary nods. "Yes. Buried among our family papers." The judge's eyebrow goes up. "DNA tests?" The prosecutor nods. "Yes, Your Honor. Tests that can alter the legal and emotional underpinning of this family." A charged silence. Even the cameras cease zooming. It's as if time suspends itself. Mary's voice relaxes. "All these years, I believed loyalty was keeping quiet. I believed family protection involved concealing the truth. But love rooted in secrets is not love." The judge waves for her to take a seat. "We'll consider this evidence thoroughly," he says. For now, go on. The prosecutor glances at Mary once more. You said you had adoption papers too. What were they for? Mary nods. They were for Robin's children from her first marriage, the ones Cody legally adopted years ago. But with those documents were letters, notes, and a sealed DNA file. One that didn't have the same dates. It didn't make sense until I figured out, it wasn't about those kids. Cody shifts uncomfortably in his chair. Robin's breathing accelerates. It was about another child, Mary continues. A child no one ever talked about. The defense attorney, clearly panicked, stands. Objection, Your Honor. This is speculation. The judge nods. Noted. But if Mrs. Brown can back this claim with evidence, the court will hear it. Mary's lawyer steps up. We will, Your Honor. And by the end of this trial, the truth about those DNA results will be undeniable. Cody's face changes from rage to fear, slight, but evident. He looks away, his eyes fixed on the ground, his fingers tapping anxiously. Robin, on the other hand, can't cry anymore. Her shoulder heaves as she speaks in a barely audible whisper, I told you this would come back to us. The judge finally addresses, we'll have a brief recess before we continue with the presentation of evidence. Both parties, prepare your subsequent statements. As the courtroom starts to clear, Christine and Janelle share a glance, an unspoken comprehension passing between the two. They understand this is only the start. Mary passes by Cody without glancing his direction. The first time in years that she feels lighter, not liberated, but prepared. For telling the truth, however difficult, is all that's left to do. Outside, reporters flurry around her, microphones flashing like lightning. Mary, is it true you discovered secret DNA documents? Mary, are you claiming Cody and Robin committed perjury on the stand? She doesn't respond. She simply says softly, you'll find out soon enough. The camera pans back as she steps into the rain, coat wrapped around her tightly. The courthouse towers behind her like a dark shape, cold, unforgiving, but with the promise of truth. The courthouse is different the next day. The air is charged with rumor, and each corridor vibrates with rumor. Strangers who had not cared one whit about this case are now leaning against the glass doors, anxious to catch a glimpse of what might be the trial of the year. Inside, Mara sits still, her hands clasped in her lap. There's a piece about her that wasn't there yesterday, like somebody who's resigned herself to what's next. On the opposite side of the aisle, Cody and Raya sit together, but there's an apparent distance between them. Their shoulders don't even meet. Their eyes never intersect. The judge enters, the room rises, and session 2 begins. Today, Judge Harrison says, adjusting his glasses, we will hear testimonies and examine the evidence submitted by the plaintiff. The prosecutor, Ms. Dalton, stands confidently. Your Honor, the first witness we'd like to call is Cody Brown himself. A murmur stirs among the spectators. Cody's jaw clamps. He looks toward Raya, who nods hesitantly. Unsteadily, he stands up and moves toward the stand. The oath is sworn. His voice is firm, too firm, as if he memorized every line the night before. Mr. Brown, the prosecutor starts, do you admit that your first wife, Mara, found sealed DNA records in your residence? Cody exhales sharply. I do. But she misinterpreted them. The courtroom murmurs, pens scratching against notepads. Misinterpreted them how? They were old legal drafts, adoption documents, family planning notes. We've lived a very public life, Ms. Dalton. Things get taken out of context. Ms. Dalton leans in. And the DNA file? He pauses. I was advised not to discuss that without my lawyer present. She smiles faintly. You're under oath, Mr. Brown. Cody looks at his lawyer, who gives him a nod. The file, Cody says hesitantly, was included in a medical procedure. Standard genetic screening. Mara's expression tightens. It's the same falsehood she's heard before. MS. Dalton walks slowly back and forth, allowing the silence to linger. Standard genetic screening, for whom, precisely? Cody swallows hard. For my wife, Raya. Raya tenses up. Cody, she mutters under her breath, but the mic picks it up. The prosecutor's eyes sparkle. So you acknowledge the DNA test was related to your present wife? Yes, Cody answers hastily. But not as Mara is suggesting. The judge leans forward. Then tell me. In what way? Cody pauses. He resembles a man perched at the brink of a cliff, dithering over whether to take the leap or go back. Finally, he speaks, it was for medical clarity, to verify genetic compatibility. That's all. But the hesitation in his voice betrays him. Even the jury picks up on it. The prosecutor smiles faintly. Thank you, Mr. Brown. No further questions. Cody breathes a sigh of relief, too early. Actually, she adds, turning to the judge, we'd like to submit Exhibit B, the full DNA report, obtained from the same lab. Cody's relief vanishes. His lawyer stands instantly. Objection. That report was sealed. Judge Harrison lifts his hand. Overruled. Proceed. The courtroom is filled with the gentle rustle of paper as the evidence packet is opened. Mara does not shift. She has read those pages before, but to have them read out loud is to reopen a wound she attempted to close years ago. Ms. Dalton reads, Subject A, Cody Brown. Subject B, unidentified minor. Probability of paternity, 99.8%. The words ripple through the room like thunder. The audience gasps in shock. Cameras click. Reporters push for position. Raya's hand shoots up to cover her mouth. Cody's face goes pale. Judge Harrison bangs his gavel. Order. Order in the court. Mari remains still, her heart pounding in her ears. She doesn't smirk. She doesn't smile. She simply closes her eyes as if hearing affirmation of what she always knew long before. The prosecutor presses on. Mr. Brown, would you care to explain this outcome? Cody slowly shakes his head. That test is outdated. It's not applicable. It's from prior to what? She asks. He doesn't respond. Raya, shaking, at last whispers, you said it was a mistake. He winces. Raya, please, she withdraws her hand, weeping. A mistake doesn't have a name, Cody. A mistake doesn't have DNA. The room is chilly now. Even the cameras pause. The prosecutor talks quietly. So the child exists. Cody doesn't dispute it. His silence is answer enough, the judge finally interrupts the silence. We'll take a 10-minute recess. The audience erupts into talk. Cameras dash out to the street for live coverage. Mara remains in her seat, her gaze on the table. Krista and Janet move over to her quietly, their faces a mixture of shock and compassion. Krista whispers, you were right all along. Mara nods weakly. I wish I wasn't. In the hallway, Cody and Raya fight outside of the courtroom. Her tone is biting, shaking with betrayal. How could you let this happen? How could you lie to me, to everyone? Cody's response is barely above a whisper. I didn't mean for it to come out this way. Raya's laughter is sarcastic. You mean you didn't mean for it to come out at all? He paces over to a chair, runs his hand through his hair, looking wildly for an exit. But there isn't one. All doors lead back to the truth that he attempted to bury. When the session picks up again, the air is charged. No one dares breathe too hard. The prosecutor announces, the next witness, Mrs. Raya Brown. Raya moves slowly and weighs heavily. She sits, dabs her eyes, and looks at the judge. Your Honor, she says, I want to be certain, I didn't know about the DNA test until last week. I trusted my husband totally. Her voice breaks, but she goes on. I knew when I married him that he had a history. But I thought we were creating something real. I didn't know our basis was a lie. Cody clenches his jaw and closes his eyes. He seems to want to say something, but each word is stuck behind shame. Raya wipes her tears away and stares directly at Mara. You were right to bring this here. I might not agree with how you did it, but you were right. The judge nods slowly, clearly moved by her honesty. Ms. Dalton moves forward once again. Mrs. Brown, do you know who the child referred to in the report is? Raya shakes her head. No. But I should. The judge interrupts, the court will demand confirmation from the lab. Raya breathes a deep sigh, murmuring, finally. In another part of the room, Cody appears defeated. He is pale, his hands shaking on the table. For a man who once had every conviction behind a decision, he now appears to be a man who has lost hold of the story he constructed. Mara looks at him, not with anger, but with softly spoken sorrow. She mutters under her breath, truth has a way of finding you, no matter how long it takes. Judge Harrison bangs the gavel again. Court will reconvene tomorrow morning for continuation of testimonies and presentation of the lab report. Until then, this session is adjourned. The audience gasps once more as everyone rises. Tension still hangs in the air like a cloud of smoke after a blaze. Mara picks up her papers and proceeds to the door, walking by Cody without a glance. He sits and watches her leave, regret and a sense of realization on his face. Raya remains seated, her gaze fixed on the floor, as if seeing her whole life remade piece by unfamiliar piece. As the lights fade and the people move on, the voice of the narrator drops, secrets never remain buried forever. And tomorrow, when the lab report is made public, the truth won't just rock this family, it'll annihilate what little trust there is. Early light filters in through the courthouse windows, pale and chill. The courthouse is quieter today, even, it seems, as if it itself is preparing for what's to come. News vans are parked along the street outside, reporters whisper of secret DNA findings and vows broken. Inside, the gallery is packed with every seat taken. Mara sits by herself in her table, shuffling through papers, her hands shaking ever so slightly. Yesterday's secret, the secret child, has turned it all around. She feels the change in the atmosphere. The whispers that once condemned her now sympathize with her. Across from him, Cody sits stiff, his eyes fixed on the floor. His attorney leans over and speaks to him in hushed, insistent words, but Cody responds barely at all. Raya stands beside him, white-faced, her eyes far away. The woman who once fought for him now appears foreign beside him. Judge Harrison arrives. The gavel comes down. Court is now in session. Ms. Dalton, call your next witness. Ms. Dalton rises. Your Honor, we request that Krista Brown be called to testify. Every head swivels as Krista stands from the crowd. She appears firm, tranquil, but her eyes reveal a profound sorrow. For years she's seen the family fray, one deception unspooling another thread. Today, she's willing to put an end to the fraying, even if it means revealing more than anyone anticipates. She swears, sits, and breathes out. Mrs. Brown, Ms. Dalton starts, you were a member of this family for more than 2 decades. What would you say your relationship with Mr. Brown was like? Krista looks at Cody for a moment. Complicated, she says. At first, I thought we were creating something holy. But as the years went on, the love grew into control. The family was not so much about unity and more about allegiance to him. A soft murmur runs through the room. Cody's face sets in a hard-lined MS. Dalton inclines her head. When you talk about control, can you provide an example? Krista swallows hard. There were boundaries. Unspoken ones. Who could talk, who could question? Anytime Mara or I attempted to discuss money, or feeling shut out, Cody would label it disrespect. Raya. She was always exempt. Everything he did, every choice, was about her. Raya winces. She doesn't glance up. Did you ever see any attempts to conceal documents or refuse information to the family? Krista pauses, her hands fidgeting the hem of her sleeve. Yes. There was one night, years and years ago. I opened Cody's office. He was burning papers in the fire. I didn't know what they were, But when I questioned him, he told me they were old tax returns. I didn't think so. Gasps resonate throughout the courtroom. The judge inclines forward. Mrs. Brown, are you saying evidence was deliberately destroyed? Krista slowly nods. I am. Cody thumps his hand against the tabletop. That's not true. The gavel comes down. Mr. Brown, please, you need to control yourself. Krista does not even blink. You can deny it to your heart's content, but I saw it. And now, having heard about those DNA results, I know why you were so anxious to get rid of those papers. Cody's face flushes. He seems to want to stand, to yell, but he realizes any protest will just make it worse. MS. Dalton thanks Krista and addresses the judge. Your Honor, the next witness, Janet Brown. Janet stands slowly, holding a little notebook. She's the quiet one, the peacemaker, the one who always avoided trouble. But her eyes are resolute today. She sits down and fiddles with the microphone. Mrs. Brown, Ms. Dalton tells her softly, you were always referred to as the one who connected everybody. Why step forward now? Janet's voice is level, even. Because silence was a falsehood. I used to think I was keeping everyone safe by remaining impartial, but I was only assisting him in keeping secrets. Cody sucks in his breath. Janet, don't do that. She looks at him. I already did, years ago. I just didn't have the guts to actually say it. Everyone takes a shared breath through the gallery. Ms. Dalton inches forward. What did you learn? Janet opens the notebook, her hands shaking a little. It was a letter. From the lab. It was meant for Raya but sent to our old family postal box. It had results attached on it. I knew something was wrong, but I asked Cody and he said to keep my nose out of it. He said it was a personal medical issue. Raya's lips open. You read that letter? Janet nods. I did. And now that I know what those results indicated, I can't remain silent anymore. Ms. Dalton speaks in a soft tone. Mrs. Brown, could you please tell the court what that letter contained precisely? Janet pauses. It contained paternity confirmation enclosed. For client or Brown. Raya lets out a gasp. It was addressed to me? But I never, she trails off, understanding the reality. He must have intercepted it. Cody's head falls. He does not deny it. The judge's voice is stern. Mr. Brown, did you hide official mail addressed to your wife? Cody's voice breaks. I did not wish her to discover so. It was not meant to amount to anything. Raya's chair is jumped up from. It mattered everything. You held me within a marriage of lies. The judge's gavel slams again and again. Mrs. Brown, please, compose yourself. But Raya won't stop. Tears flow down her face as she confronts Cody. You could have been honest with me. You could have saved us all this shame. Cody looks at her, shattered. I was protecting you. Her laughter shatters the silence, bitter and raw. Protect me? You were protecting yourself. The gallery murmurs, even the reporters seem stunned by her honesty. MS. Dalton turns to the judge. Your Honor, with your permission, we'd like to present a video recording discovered yesterday, a message left by Cody Brown himself, recorded 3 years ago. Cody's lawyer leaps to his feet. Objection. That video was taken out of context. Overruled, the judge says firmly. Play the recording. The lights go down. The screen flickers to life. Cody's face materializes, 3 years younger, confident, smiling. His voice rings out in the room, some truths are better kept buried. The family wouldn't survive if they knew everything. The video cuts off. Quiet. No one stirs. Cody hides his face in his hands. Mara stands motionless, her face impossible to read. Judge Harrison heaves a deep sigh. We will recess until tomorrow morning. The court will study this evidence carefully. As the people rise, Krista goes over to Mara and speaks softly, "You did the right thing. But watch out, the worst is yet to come." Mara nods. She knows Krista's true. Each truth brought out only brings another layer lurking in wait. Outside, there are reporters rushing once more, their voices blurring in a tempest of questions. Is the family done? Was the video authentic? Who is the child? But Mara doesn't respond. She walks into the waning afternoon light, her thoughts reeling back over Cody's words, "Some truths are better kept buried." Morning comes gray and soggy, as if the sky itself is aware of what's in store. The courthouse dominates like a shadow, journalists already line the steps, their cameras flashing through the fog. Inside, it's charged. The benches are packed, the murmurs louder than ever. Everyone knows today's hearing will crack the story wide open for good. Mara arrives first, her attorney by her side. She is calm, but her heart pounds like a drum against her chest. Every step is heavier than the last one. Yesterday's news, the charred papers, the foiled DNA letter, the confession video, already transformed the case irrevocably. But today, they will face the truth everyone has been dreading. Opposite the aisle, Cody sits pale and sleepless. His eyes are bloodshot, his chin unshaven. Raya is not around, she hasn't come home since yesterday's row. Krista and Janet sit subdued behind Mara, an impenetrable wall of support, co-wives no more, now friends. The courtroom doors slam open. Judge Harrison appears, his face solemn. Court is now in session, he declares, his voice booming. Proceed. Ms. Dalton rises. Your Honor, we request the reading of the final DNA test, the test commissioned independent of the court. There is a quiet that falls. The clerk approaches, presenting to the judge a sealed envelope. Judge Harrison opens the seal, reads the document slowly, and then glances up. This report establishes that the minor in question, Dylan Brown, is not the biological child of Mr. Cody Brown. A simultaneous gasp sweeps across the room. Cody shuts his eyes. Mara puts her hand over her mouth. Krista holds Janet's hand. Ms. Dalton turns to Cody. Mr. Brown, would you care to tell the court why you informed the court, your wives, and the world that Dylan was your son? Cody's voice shakes. Because I thought he was. At least initially. At first, the lawyer continues to question. He weakly nods. Years ago, I knew there was a possibility. I discovered Raya had, he trails off, unable to go on. She was seeing someone prior to our wedding. I told myself the timing was irrelevant. I wanted the family to appear perfect. The gallery erupts in a flurry of whispers. Reporters frantically scribble. Judge Harrison raises his hand. Order. Go on, Mr. Brown. Cody speaks softer now. I thought if I took him, if I raised him like he was mine, the truth would remain hidden. But when the tests came, I burned them. I couldn't bear it. I didn't want to lose her. Or the picture of what we were. Ms. Dalton's eyes narrow. So you perjured yourself? Cody pauses, then leans forward and whispers, yes. The courtroom explodes in noise again, gasps, murmurs, the clicking of camera shutters. Raya appears at the back of the room. Her hair is loose, her face pale but resolute. She walks slowly down the aisle. The crowd parts as she passes. She stops beside Cody's table but doesn't sit. Raya looks at the judge. Your Honor, I'd like to testify. Cody's lawyer protests, she hasn't been recalled as a witness. Overruled, the judge declares sternly. Proceed, Mrs. Brown. Raya steps forward. Her tone is gentle but unshakable. He's right. I lied as well. I allowed him to say Dylan was his son because I did not want the world to hear the truth, that Dylan's father was a man very different from him. The courtroom waits with bated breath. Who? Ms. Dalton inquires softly. Raya swallows. Ethan Moore. A business associate of Cody's. We were both lost at that time. I made a mistake, and when I discovered I was pregnant, Cody said he would have fixed it. He said if I stood by him, we could both still appear the perfect family. Cody glances down, unable to say anything. MS. Dalton inched closer. Mrs. Brown, did Mr. Brown threaten you or pressure you into keeping the truth a secret? Raya shakes her head. No. He didn't need to. He just guaranteed that if I cooperated, the family would remain intact. And for a long time, that was all I cared about. She gazes at Mara now, regret burning in her eyes. I'm sorry. For all of it. You didn't deserve to be caught up in our deceptions. Mara breathes shakily. None of us did. The silence that fills the room is crushing. Judge Harrison leans forward. This court has heard enough lies to last a lifetime. The question now isn't paternity, it's about taking responsibility. He gazes straight at Cody. Mr. Brown, you manufactured evidence, interfered with the court, and lied to your family. What could possibly justify this court being lenient with you? Cody's voice cracks. Because I was trying to keep together something that was already falling apart. Judge Harrison's tone mellowed a little. Then maybe the moral here, Mr. Brown, is that things are sometimes designed to come apart, so truth can finally catch its breath. The judge calls for a short recess. The courtroom hums like a hive of bees. Krista and Janet walk towards Mara and envelop her in a low hug. Reporters swarm out to report what they've just seen. Cody sits rigid at the table, his eyes blank. For the first time, the man who used to dominate every room appears completely helpless. Raya comes to stand beside him. You could have told me, she whispers. He looks up at her, tears brimming. And risk losing you? You lost me the second you determined I couldn't take the truth. She turns to go. He doesn't move. Mara stands there for a second, observing him. Despite all the years of turmoil, rage, and heartache, she experiences something she didn't expect, pity. Because underneath it all, Cody is not a monster. But a man who is stuck in the persona he built. The court resumes. Judge Harrison makes his last pronouncement. This court holds that Mr. Cody Brown's testimony is not credible. Custody rulings will be considered in accordance with these findings. This session is now adjourned. The gavel drops. But though everyone rises, no one takes a step. The air is charged with the gravity of all that's been spoken, and all that's yet unspoken. Mari exits into the afternoon sunlight. The din of the reporters recedes into a murmur. For the last time in years, she feels the breeze on her face and does not turn around. Krista and Janet follow her, silent walking. Raya leaves a few moments later, holding Dylan's hand. Their eyes catch for a moment, no words, just a glance that says the truth has finally set them free. Cody remains behind, sitting alone in the courtroom. He glances about at the vacant chairs, the sheets of paper strewn across the table. The sound of his own breathing is cacophonous. He mutters to himself, some truths need to remain hidden. He pauses, glancing at the bench of the judge. But not this one. The sky outside starts clearing, sun shining through the clouds. Cameras flash, but Mara is not bothered any longer. She strides toward the car parked outside, her head held high, her heart now quiet. And as courthouse doors shut behind her, the tale that long ago defined them all comes to an end at last, not with triumph or revenge, but with the truth. The courthouse is still today, too still. Footsteps echo instead of the pandemonium that had once coursed through the corridors. The crowd has dispersed, the cameras taken away, and the only noise remaining is the creeping tick of the hallway clock. Mari exits the courtroom, documents in hand, her face impossible to read. For months, her existence has been a maelstrom of hearings, charges, and secrets buried deep enough to rot, crawling to the top. Now, stepping out into the wan sunlight, she doesn't know if she's won or lost. Behind her is Cody, his tie loose, his shoulders sagging. There's no fury left in him, only fatigue, the sort that comes when the truth finally sears away all your lies. At the exit doors, Raya stands, her small hand enclosed in Dylan's. She does not glance at Cody, not at first. When their gazes finally lock, something transpires between them, not forgiveness, not really, but a silent recognition that their mutual deception has finally expired. Krista and Janet remain at the courthouse entrance, waiting for Mara. They've been through too much to split now. They were once adversaries in the same house. They are now survivors of the same tempest. Janet speaks up. You think he'll change? Mara lets out a breath. Perhaps. But for us. People like Cody, they only get better when there is nothing left to lose. The three women exchange a weary laugh, soft, bitter. For the first time, it is real. A reporter pushes forward, microphone at the ready. Mara, what do you think about the verdict? She gazes at the woman for a moment before responding. Relieved. Sad. Free. Perhaps all three at once. But above all, I feel done lying. The reporter leans in closer. Do you think Cody deserves forgiveness? Mara smiles weakly. Forgiveness isn't something you deserve. It's something you choose to extend. I'm not there yet. The reporter nods, and as the cameras flash, Mara turns away from her. She's had enough feeding the headlines. This story is hers now, not theirs. Within the courthouse, Cody sits on the same bench where he spent hours of mornings waiting for his name to be called. The judge's last words keep echoing in his mind, you can't build truth on lies. He massaged his temples, the reality of everything hitting home. His family's gone. The empire he constructed on the facade of unity, gone. His reputation, his control, his certainty, all reduced to ashes. A shadow looms over him. It's Judge Harrison, now off the bench but still in possession of that quiet authority. Mr. Brown, says the judge, a piece of advice, redemption is not through excuse. It's through honesty. Cody nods, looking down. Honesty's all I have left. The judge nods once, a small, understanding nod, before turning away. Later that same week, the family meets again, not in court, but at a peaceful park just outside Flagstaff. No cameras, no lawyers, no witnesses. Just the five of them, standing in the dying light of sunset. Krista speaks up first. So what happens now? Raya strokes her fingers through Dylan's hair. We begin again. Apart, perhaps. But genuinely, this time. Janet speaks quietly, it is odd, isn't it? We spent years attempting to be one great big family. Perhaps what we truly needed was to finally release each other. Mara gazes out at the mountains. The truth does not repair things. It merely frees you enough to get up and leave. The group is silent. Even Cody, who has spoken hardly a word since the verdict, finally raises his eyes. I know I don't deserve it, he starts, but I am sorry. I thought I was keeping all of you safe. I realize now I was only keeping myself safe. Raya's eyes shine, but her voice does not waver. You can't rewrite the past, Cody. But you can choose what kind of man you're going to be tomorrow. He swallows hard, nodding. The wind picks up, carrying away the last light of day. It feels like an ending, but also, strangely, a beginning. As the sun dips below the horizon, Mara walks a few steps away, letting the breeze wash over her. She pulls out her phone, dozens of missed calls, texts, interview requests. She scrolls past them all and opens a blank message to herself, it's over. You're free. She saves and puts the phone away in her pocket. Cody stands behind her. He doesn't move forward. Some spaces are best left. Krista turns to Mara. Do you ever wonder if we'll ever cease being the sister wives that everyone speaks of? Mara smiles softly. Perhaps. But that's no longer our narrative. Let them speak. We have new ones to pen. They exchange a long, silent glance, one founded on comprehension, not competition. Weeks thereafter, headlines disappear. The public turns to the next scandal. But within each of them, the reverberations of that day in court linger. Raya begins counseling women rebuilding from bad relationships. Krista launches a small craft store in town. Janet draws closer to her family. Myra starts writing, chronicling her story, not as rumor, but as healing. And what about Cody? He vanishes from public view. Some claim he moved out of state. Others hush that he's doing construction work under an alias. No one knows for certain, and perhaps that is best. A year after, Mara stands outside the same courthouse, not for a trial, but for closure. The plaque on the side of the door reflects the sunlight. She gazes at it longingly, recalling the day that she stepped out shattered and afraid. Now, she's different. Stronger. Calmer. Whole. She hears a voice behind her say, "You came back." It's Cody. Older, quieter, with gray streaks in his hair. He's clutching a sealed envelope. "I didn't expect to see you," Mara confesses. He smiles weakly. "I didn't expect to wish to. But I wrote to you, a letter. Not to ask for forgiveness. Just, truth." She takes the envelope, hesitating. "Do you want me to read it?" "Not now," he says. "When you're ready." He departs without another word. Mara sees him go, the envelope shaking in her hands. Mara opens it several days later. A solitary line, "You were right, love built on truth is the only kind worth keeping." She carefully folds the paper, puts it into her journal, and shuts it for good. And then she glances up, smiling weakly as the morning sun climbs high, a new story to be told.